Welcome to the Music Nut Program. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining me today. And welcome back to the latest edition of It's Chris Whitley Wednesday. On today's show, I will review Chris Whitley's 10th album, released on March 20, 2004, on Messenger Records, Weed. This would be Chris's second album released on that same date, as he would also release War Crime Blues, which I did a show on in a earlier episode today. Weed, like War Crime Blues, is just Chris and Chris alone, vocals, guitar, foot stomp, and it is an all acoustic record. This focuses on 16 tracks, acoustic versions of songs that were on his first three albums that were on a major label: Living with the Law, Den of Ecstasy, and Terra Incognita, respectively. How would I describe this album? The album's called Weed. It's a chill out album, not as much chill as Hotel Vast Horizon, because these songs were written more in a rock structure originally, or maybe a blues rock structure, or an Americana structure. But it is an album you can smoke one to and enjoy. It also focuses on how great a songwriter Chris Whitley was. This, again, is done under very scarce proceedings or naked proceedings. It was released, on Messenger Records, recorded on 2-track to his girlfriend Suzanne Berger's bathroom. Mastering by Edgar Rothig, who was also involved with Hotel Vast Horizon and War Crime Blues. It was recorded in August of 2003. Not much to the packaging. Picture of Chris on the back and the song list, and a picture of the ghost here on the CD, or a drawing of a ghost. So, when I listen to this album, this is what I can tell you. The songs are all more barren than the originals, of course. I think the songs that were originally on Terra Incognita shine here in their more acoustic versions, like the opener, Power Down. Now, as I've said throughout the series, more often than not, way up more often than not, Chris was singing more in a whispered, huskier tone. But Power Down, he sings with a lot of expression. And I think this works very well in this version than it does on the original on Terra Incognita, which I thought that a lot of dynamics took away from how great the song was. That's the thing. You're hearing these songs here without the dynamics. And Chris has said, or had said, that's he thought Living with the Law, which was his most successful record, was too polished. So here you hear them in their bare bones form. I don't think Chris's vocals at this point were as strong as they were when those albums had come out. But I think some of these versions work better in the acoustic versions than they did when they were originally released on those 90s albums. Living with the Law, Chris does go into his falsetto voice a little bit on here. I like it, but I like the original more. I think the dynamics on that album really added something to those songs. And just to keep in mind, there's 8 tracks on here that were originally on Living with the Law, and 4 tracks each from Den of Ecstasy and Terra Incognita, respectively. Know You, which was originally No on Den of Ecstasy. I think that works more in its driving, riveting version on Den of Ecstasy, but again, this is a very strong version. Phone Call from Leavenworth doesn't really sound too much different than the version that was on Living with the Law, because that was also just Chris solo on there as well. Cool Wooden Crosses, I think, works very well on this version. This is originally on Terra Incognita. I think it's a stronger version here in just its acoustic form. Big Sky Country, I think, it's good. All these songs are good in the acoustic versions. It it's what you like. I think most of these songs that were from Living with the Law sounded better with the dynamics around them and that very strong production, and the backing vocals work really well on Big Sky Country in the original. Here, you don't have the backing vocals. You don't have those call and response in the choruses, but it's very cool. New Machine's very good. New Machine sounds similar than to what you hear on Den of Ecstasy. Clear Blue Sky works very well here. And there's another track from Terra Incognita. Although the version on Terra has more of a Hendrix feel, excuse me, this works very well. Border Town is good. But again, I think it was the closing track on Living with the Law. And I thought the dynamics really worked well on that. Narcotic Prayer, I think, very strong again, but again, I liked it more with all the ambiance and the loud guitars from Din. Kick the Stones, this is a cool version. We don't have that harmonica on here, but it's a cool version. I don't think Chris sings this with the gusto that he did on Living with the Law. And I'm saying this a lot, but it depended on the album. I thought the production really worked well on those first two albums. Now, Weightless, which is a song I'm waiting for someone else to record to get some money into Chris Whitley's estate. This is a nice version. I like the versions that were originally on Terra Incognita more on Weed. Now, the next three tracks are all from Living with the Law. I Forget You Every Day, Make the Dirt Stick, and Dust Radio. I thought Chris sang with more expression on Living with the Law, particularly on Make the Dirt Stick and Dust Radio. The version of I Forget You Every Day I like quite a bit on here. I just thought that the original versions really shined on Living with the Law. And although I do like these, I like everything on here. Can't Get Off works very well as a closer on here, as well as an instrumental. Originally, we had vocals on the Den of Ecstasy version. This is quite good as an instrumental. It really focuses on those intricate guitar lines that Chris was playing on this song. This sounds very strong as an acoustic instrumental. Yeah, so this review is not going to be too long because all these songs have been recorded before. I think this is a good indication, a good album to listen to hear Chris as a songwriter on here. His vocals, for the most part, like the Living with the Law versions, the Din versions, I think are superior. But I really, really like the versions on here of the songs that were on Terra Incognita. So, what do you think of Chris Whitley's acoustic album, Weed? Do you prefer the original versions on those 90s albums more, or do you like them in their acoustic versions here? Do you think this plays well as a piece? This is a 59-minute album, but the songs are strong enough that it doesn't really feel long. I believe this would be his longest album. A lot of his albums by this period were getting in that 30 to 40-minute range. Please let me know what you think of the very bare bones recording production on here. So let me know your comments on Chris Whitley's album, Weed. Join me next week on It's Chris Whitley Wednesday when I discuss Chris Whitley's 11th album and the last album which would be released during his lifetime from 2005, Soft Dangerous Shores. Thank you so much for joining me here today, as well as the entire It's Chris Whitley series. Until I see you again, do what you love, and I'll talk to you soon.